Hello and welcome back to another episode of Making Mindset Matter with me, your host, Lorna McKenna. If you haven't already done so, please do click the subscribe or follow button so you can be notified when a new episode comes out each week. So in today's episode of Making Mindset Matter, I'm going to dive deep into my mindset journey and talk to you all about why I realised mindset matter and just the journey that I've been on. And for me to share my journey, and I've shared my physical development journey in episode 4, for me to share my journey, I've had to really reflect on how far I've come. It's very vulnerable for me to talk about some of these things, but I want to be as authentic as possible. As I said before, authenticity is my strongest core value. And there is so much power to be learned in people's journeys, and it's just to show you like what is possible when you make that commitment to yourself. Commitment to working on yourself and commitment to prioritising yourself. So I'm going to dive in to my journey, and I'm going to try and not make the episode too long, but it is really difficult to put a 4-year journey into such a short amount of time. So I've identified like sort of key points along the way. So I hope you enjoy listening. I hope you enjoy listening to my journey, and I hope you take some inspiration or some of the lessons that I've learned to show you like why mindset really does matter. So obviously I've spoke about it, like I said, in episode 4, my physical development journey. So I'm not really going to touch upon that too much because that is really where my personal development journey started. Because when I saw the pictures of me graduating and realised how much I'd let myself go, I just needed to change. I just know I needed to change. So that's when I started on my weight loss journey, because on the outside, I've always been this person that's been so good at having a smile, making a laugh and a joke about everything. But just because that's how I perceived myself and portrayed myself to the world, inside I was really unhappy. I was lost. I was doing a master's because I really just didn't know what my next step was. I was using food and alcohol and everything else as a comfort. I could not stand to be on my own. The thought of being on my own literally petrified me. My own company. I was so scared to be alone in my own thoughts, and I didn't have any self-love. I was so negative towards myself. Like my external reality of like how I look really reflected internally, and I can only say that upon reflection because at the time I didn't realise. And I always say like I've never suffered with mental health. Like I've never been labelled as have been diagnosed with having anxiety or depression or anything like that. But looking back at me at that point, I can see I was in a very depressive state. I wouldn't say I had depression, but I was in a depressive state because of the way that I wasn't looking after myself. And so when I embarked on my weight loss journey, I wasn't really sure what the end goal was. I just embarked on this journey, and a pivotal point for me was about 15 months in. I'd lost around about 3 stone, and then I'd made a huge move to London to move in with my boyfriend at the time. And I look at pictures of myself from there, and although like I've lost weight and externally I'd changed, internally I look at pictures of myself and I'm literally dead behind the eyes, because internally I still didn't love myself. I was still extremely unhappy within myself, and just because I changed the external, it didn't change anything internal, because I didn't work on my mindset. I didn't even know it was a thing. I still would find that when I was going like to the clothes shops, that I would go pick up the clothes that was the biggest size. Like even though I'd lost weight and I wasn't that size, I could not register that in my head. I couldn't register that I'd lost this weight. And because I'd made this big move to London, I started to feel really disconnected from people. I felt isolated. I had so much negative self-chatter about myself. I didn't really have any self-love towards myself. I really did think that happiness came from the external things. It came from my boyfriend at the time. It came from the things that we used to do together, not realising that wasn't actually happiness. And still at that point, especially when I moved to London, I really did not like being in my own company. And I think that's something I really can recognise of how far I've come. Now I love spending time on my own. That is one thing that I've realised, is how unhappy I was in my own company because I didn't like who I was as a person. I also prioritised everyone else's happiness over my own because, like I said, I thought happiness came from making other people happy, not from making myself happy. So they were just like some key things back when I was. So even though, like I said, I'd started losing weight, and externally I was looking better than I'd ever looked, internally I still was the same because I didn't work on my mindset. And then fast forward probably say like another 8 and 9 months, I got to the point, and I remember this was like a pivotal point, and I can remember the conversation clear as day, this conversation that I'd had with a friend, and she was explaining to me how she felt like she needed some time on her own, and she didn't know who she was. And when she was just describing how she was, like, I thought that was me. I thought that is me. Like, externally, like on the external, like from people looking outside inwards, would have thought that I was happy, like my life was good, I was living in a really nice flat, I had a good job, I was doing all these things, and people would have thought from the outside I was happy, but internally I wasn't. And it just honestly goes to show that just because someone from the outside may look happy, like, that's not necessarily the internal narrative, and you never actually truly know what's going on with people. So please don't judge people from the outside inwards, because you don't know actually what they're dealing with. And just because they portray one way, and I realised, like, on reflection on my journey, I used to be, because it's something I've worked really hard not to be. I was a massive deflector. I would deflect any like negative emotion, and I would just laugh it off and just pretend it wouldn't happen. Hence why I had this like feeling of numbness when I look back at. Used to have this feeling of numbness when I look back at things. I didn't feel any emotion because I would just deflect it. It was like a defense mechanism. So this defense mechanism that I had stopped me, like, well, I thought it stopped me feeling anything, but really it was just me suppressing my emotion. But yeah, this conversation I'd have with my friend, and I remember saying to her, like, I feel so lost. Like, I really don't know who I am as a person. I don't know what I want to do. I don't even know what I enjoy. I don't know what I stand for. I just felt like I had no identity. And I just didn't feel like really like my mind was my own, because I just honestly felt like I was in autopilot, and that's how I felt. I would get up, I'd go to work, go to the gym, get home, sit and watch telly, sit on my phone. Like, it was just these negatives. I don't even want to say negative, it's just a repetitive cycle of just like autopilot. And when I'd started having this conversation with my friend, feeling lost, I just knew there must have been like, there's got to be something more. Because if I was questioning why there was something, obviously I didn't know the journey I was going to go on and how it would turn, but I just knew there had to be like something so much more. And a friend, I've got a really good friend, and Jason, who I used to work with, and he's amazing. He's the person that actually fully got me onto this path of mindset stuff, because we'd have conversations at work, and he told me about some personal development books, and I started reading them, but I didn't really understand. So I wouldn't say that that's fully where my mindset journey started, but it's where I started to have the awareness of personal development and self-development. And I am honestly like eternally grateful for him, because he is someone that showed me like the light of personal development, and like what has stemmed from when I actually was fully exposed to it is obviously it's got me to where I am today. And oh God, I just sit and think, like, definitely sit and think. I don't even want to imagine what my life would be like if I hadn't have found this path, because I feel so fulfilled now and so proud of how far I've come. And to go back to that place that I was, like, I would never want to go back there ever. So yeah, I'm just, eternally grateful for him. So yeah. So obviously, like I said, I'd started questioning like who I was and like what I wanted out of life, and I just didn't like know what was next. I just knew there needed to be something more. And then a few months later, my friend Hannah, messaged me about an online business opportunity to join a travel business, and I put it off and ignored it for a few months. And then after travelling to Thailand back in like January 2020, I was like, do you know what? No, do you know what? I'm going to give it a go. Like, it's something I feel like I really want to do. But in the mindset that I was in back then, I actually didn't realise like how paralysed by other people's opinions I actually was, and how much I let that affect me. So I joined an online travel business and in February 2020, after months of thinking about it, and I finally took the leap. I'd wanted to like honestly start it for a while because I saw the potential in it, but I didn't, out of pure fear of other people's opinions. And I didn't realise like how much, like I said, that paralysed me from like making decisions, from stopping me doing something I wanted to do. And when I finally took the plunge, and I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't want their opinions, and I was like so scared about it. So it took me a whole month after joining to even pluck up the courage to make an announcement post on social media, because I just was so fearful of other people's opinion about what I was doing, like whether that be people I went to school with, like my family. Just the thought of people criticising or having an opinion on something I was doing, literally it crippled me with like an anxious feeling. But obviously I pushed past it and announced it, but that feeling was still there. Like that just didn't cure it. But let me tell you, as much as I don't do the travel business anymore, and people can have different opinions on online businesses, but honestly, if it wasn't for the online business, I would not have been exposed to personal development in the way that I was, and it's been the catalyst to the journey that I'm on now, when I've truly understood why mindset mattered. Because when you're in an environment where you're surrounded by people that talk about working on your mindset and talk about self-development and talk about all these things, it really is game changing. And for me, it was game changing. Like, I am so grateful that I took that leap, even though I truly like put it off for so long, took that leap, because that honestly was the catalyst to where I am now. It was really the turning point to when I actually truly realised how much your mindset matters, when I was exposed to all these people that were working on their mindset and exposed to this different way of thinking that I hadn't ever experienced before fully, and wasn't surrounded by. And that's not to say that there's anything wrong with the way that people around you think, because if something is not in your awareness, how do you know that you need to change? But I just knew deep inside that there was something in me that wanted to change and didn't want to be this person that I was. And when I joined the online business, and this is something that I speak to so many people about, like through like social media, and it's something that really does hold people back, is people's opinions of what they post on their social media. And I can categorically say this is something that I was really, really like held back by. So now, obviously, I've started a podcast. I'm happy to waffle on, talk on my story all day. I honestly don't care anymore. But at one point, that wasn't the case. I really cared. I really cared about other people's opinions. Like I said, I was like paralysed by other people's opinions of what I was doing. And I wanted to talk on my story for ages. And it might sound like, to some people, it might sound like this is not a big thing. But to me and to a lot of other people, it's a huge thing, because it's that lack of confidence, that lack of self-belief, that lack of like self-worth that I had, that made me not realise, that I didn't realise was such a big thing, that was actually what was holding me back. And it was that doing these things that would push me out of my comfort zone, that were going to make me grow the most. And in May 2020, I ripped off that band-aid of that talk, like ripping off a plaster, and I did one. And then I realised it wasn't that bad, that I'd done it, and I just did it. And I had so many of my friends be like, oh, you're so brave for doing that. And it sounds so silly to think that would be a brave thing to do, but so many people out there don't feel comfortable doing that for the exact same reasons that I felt it. And a lot of the time, like, the things that we're telling ourselves are not true. And the stories and the narratives that I was telling myself were not true. But in my head, I thought they were. And because that was a narrative that was replaying, I truly believed it was. And by this point I'd been delving into personal development, like the mindset side of it, for a few months now. Like I really got into reading. I am an avid reader. I am obsessed with reading. I'm staring at my bookshelf now. Like it's just, I just love a book. Like I'm actually like book obsessed. I really threw myself into podcasts, just reading the development books, just implementing new habits like morning routine, the practice of gratitude, and I really like just trying to have healthier habits that were making me feel good about myself. And obviously we were in the middle of the lockdown then, so it was nice to be surrounded by this environment of people, especially in a time of such uncertainty. And I was listening to audiobooks, like I said, podcasts, development books, all sorts, and I was really like throwing myself into it, and I just realised how much I loved learning about it. So being in the travel business at this point, I was obviously mentoring people, but I actually realised like the true thing that set me on fire was talking about mindset. I was like just learning all this stuff that was positively impacting me, and I just wanted to share it. And then when I realised like the true passion like that ignited inside of me around like my passion for mindset and mindset work and helping people understand why mindset mattered stemmed back like November 2020. So at this point in my life, at this point last year, not in my life, like it's a big monologue. At this point last year, the place where I was working at the time was going through a lot of like change. There was a lot of things going on, and I was at risk of losing my job, which I eventually did get let go from my job because of the situation. But it was at this point, like, I was really questioning, like, when you're having to look for a new job and you've been sat in a job, like, what am I actually, like, truly passionate about? Like, what do I actually enjoy? And it's not until we're sometimes put into these times of uncertainty and times of where we're forced to change, do we actually start questioning, like, what do we actually enjoy? What do we actually love to do? What do I actually feel fulfilled by? And I did a couple of trainings for the team in the travel business on mindset and personal development, and I cannot tell you, I'm smiling thinking about it, like I cannot tell you how much that set me on fire inside. Like it ignited something in me, and I realised like that is honestly what I'm truly passionate about. I'm so passionate about helping people, helping them understand why mindset is important, showing you how you can change your mindset, and all these different things, just sharing book recommendations, podcast recommendations. Anytime I find something of value, I love to share it with people, because if it's benefiting me, I feel like it will really benefit somebody else. And I just love sharing that knowledge, because I realize like that is where I come alive. I come alive when I'm helping people. I'm helping people like change their mindset. And I'd had so many people in the travel business reach out to me afterwards, like saying how valuable they got it. And honestly, it's not even the validation I needed from people. It was just knowing that I'd helped people. So I'd gone from someone who was being really paralyzed by others' opinions to really wanting to help people. Like I had massively grown in confidence, and I started to really feel like I was knowing who I was as a person. I'd really begun to implement positive habits, all these positive habits. I no longer felt like I was running on autopilot. I felt like I had a bit of purpose. I was growing in self-belief. I'd definitely grown in self-love for myself. I was more present. I was prioritising me. And back in November, like I'd really thought about being a coach, but I didn't really know how that was possible. It's not something I'd ever heard of anybody doing before. And in December 2020, I did a 7-day free coaching program with Rob Dial, who is one of my mentors actually. And I thought about being a coach, and I joined it, but it was in the time of me leaving my job. And I didn't know like what was possible. I didn't know that it was possible to be a coach. I'd never heard anybody around me be a coach, like not a mindset coach. Yes, I've heard like fitness coaches, football coaches, but not like a mindset coach. And I just didn't know like what it was. and like how to do it and what made me qualified, should I say, to do it. But over like me losing my job, and then I was fortunate enough to secure another job. But in this time period, obviously we had Christmas and New Year, and I really made a commitment to myself when I was sat, and we all write New Year's resolutions. And I was a person that would write New Year's resolutions and I wasn't sticking to it. I give it a couple of weeks and I give up. But I really set my intention for 2021, and I told myself this was a year I was going to invest in myself. I was going to prioritise me. And I wrote down in my goals that I'd want to become a mindset coach by December 2021. And when I say like this commitment to invest in myself is one that I've really truly kept. I have kept it, and well and truly that has been my intention throughout this year. A big thing as well, like I just want to touch upon, on New Year's this year, I came back to London and was in a flat by myself. For me to want to spend that time and be content in my own company was such a vast contrast from the person 18 months ago that couldn't stand her own company. And I was finally prioritising me. And that was my focus, because throughout my life, I've always been someone that's always felt like they've put other people before herself. And for the first time ever, like I realised like I was my priority and I just had me to think about. And like that was going to be my focus. Like I was my focus, and it's not selfish for you to be your focus, because we do have the longest relationship in the world with ourselves. We're the only consistent thing in our life. So we really do need to prioritize that relationship that we have with ourselves. And like I said, going into this year, into 2021, that has been my priority. That has been my commitment, and it's one that I've stuck to. So when I said I was going to invest in myself, I invested in myself this year at the start of January. I invested into a 30-day mindset challenge, which was 30 days of cold showers, which can you imagine in January? 30 days of cold showers. The first shower I got into, I was like, fuck. But I managed to build it up to 6.5 minutes. So yeah, it was 30 days of cold showers, journaling, meditating, no alcohol, a healthy diet, and exercise every day. And it was £100 investment. And I'd never invested money into myself in that sense other than buying books. So for me, that was a huge milestone. And then I'd also invested in a fitness program challenge. So they were two investments I made into myself. And then after following on from the coaching course I'd done, like the 7-day challenge, I then had a call with the team of Rob's team to thing it. And on the 16th of January, and I can remember the thing, I made a huge investment and into myself and into my mindset. And I made like a multiple 4-figure investment into a coaching course on the 16th of January. So imagine I've set the intention to be a coach in December 2021, and it's the 16th of January, not even 16 days after making that commitment, and I'd invested in myself. I've never invested that much money in myself, but I just knew there was something inside of me that like this was something to do. And if I hadn't have worked on my mindset, I wouldn't have. And my mindset at this point, bear in mind, isn't where it is now. And I was second guessing, like I felt all kind of nerves making this investment. But let me tell you, that investment into myself and into my mindset has truly been, and it's unforgettable, the journey that I've been on, how far I've come. I'm so much further ahead than I could possibly imagine. So to go from having such low self-worth of myself to making this huge investment was truly monumental for me, because I didn't want to tell anybody again because people wouldn't understand, but something inside of me knew that I understood why I was doing this, and that actually was a bigger thing. And I never imagined like the journey that I would embark on this year, just this year alone, because I've learned so much about myself and I've had to unlearn so many things. So when I've spoken, one of the biggest things that I've had to learn, which was a really hard realization for me on my journey to understanding my mindset, is this numbness I was feeling was actually me not letting me feel anything. So I would look at good or bad events in the past and I would feel nothing. people close to me may have passed away, I would be upset for about a day, and then I'd just carry on as normal. And I didn't realise like how much I'd been holding on to. And I've had to do some massive deep digging into things that have really like held me back or affected me in ways that are, God, I feel like I'm getting a bit emotional talking about this. God, I start crying. And if you could ask my friends, I didn't used to be a crier, but I've had to learn and unlearn and look at things and face some harsh realities of some of the events that have happened in my life that really have truly affected me more than I could possibly imagine. And to have to unlearn all of that stuff and really face it on, especially when it is potentially people that are close to you or events that have happened, like it is really, really difficult to face that and face some of the realities, but it's it's in facing those things that actually you learn the most, and that's where the strength comes from, and you can really like step forward. Because what I have learned is like my relationship with me is the most important one that I have, and it's not about, and once you or I focus on the relationship with ourselves, like you realise what opens up, like it's the ripple effect of around. Like I am a much better friend now because I'm present. I'm a much better daughter. I'm a much better just show as a much better individual because of this work that I've done on myself. Like the energy I give off, like I'm a much better person. I've also learned the power of my mind, because didn't realise like actually like the power of the mind, and your thoughts create your reality, and my thoughts were creating my reality. So I was putting myself in situations that I didn't really particularly want to be in, but I didn't realise that I was creating them. But now I understand my mind and how powerful it is, and that I am creating my reality, then it's mind-blowing. And the other thing that I've learned to massively, and I've done another episode on this about self-love not being selfish, is more about the importance of self-love. But self-love isn't selfish, and I need to love myself unconditionally, like massively, truly unconditionally. Like you need to love yourself, because if you don't love yourself, how can you expect anybody else to love you in a different way than how you are? Because our reality is a reflection of how we're feeling, so we have to love ourselves unconditionally. It's not selfish to love yourself. It's not big-headed. It's not any of these things, and that is what I have truly learned. I've had to do so much learning and unlearning about myself. Like I said, over the last 7 months, it has been an absolute roller coaster of emotions. Since launching as a coach, which that was on the 26th of January, I launched that I was following my passion as a mindset coach, which has been just a crazy journey, like to have helped so many people on their journey as well, and to have coached them through and guide them and be a support network. It really is the most fulfilling thing, and help them and use my experiences to help them has been amazing, like just along the way. Like I said, over the last 7 months, I have worked so hard, like on working on myself and working through a lot of things that were holding me back. And I felt like at that time I used to be so, like I said, paralysed by other people's opinions. I didn't have freedom of the mind, and I've wanted to leave my job for so long because it wasn't fulfilling me, and I really wanted to go all in on my coaching. And I talked about it in episode 14 about choosing your discomfort. I had to make a choice, and I realised for so long I had been blocking off from my intuition. So the internal guidance system inside of us is our intuition, and this is when we like feel, it's like that gut feeling, that I'd been blocking off from this for so long that I wasn't following. I was letting other people influence like what I wanted to do, and actually I realised that something had to give. So I took the biggest leap of faith. If I hadn't worked on my mindset and have full trust in what I'm doing, I would have never made this jump to full-time coaching. It wouldn't have happened. 7 months ago, it wouldn't have happened. But 7 months on to the day, on the 26th of August, I became a full-time coach. It's been the biggest leap of faith I have ever taken. to do. But let me tell you, like, I've gone from being someone who didn't trust myself in the decisions that I made. I was unhappy, unfulfilled, lost, paralyzed by other people's opinions, like didn't love herself, didn't like want to do, to someone that I actually now love myself unconditionally. I have complete mental freedom. Like, I feel when I'm making decisions, they are purely for me. I'm not worrying about other people's opinions at all, because I trust the decisions that I'm making. Like, I don't need the validation of others. I also really know now that happiness comes from within us, and that can only come from within me, and it doesn't come from other people. It doesn't come from external things. Yes, they can give you momentary happiness, but I know that happiness truly comes from within. Another big lesson I've learned is that I am enough. And this is something that I never realised. Like, I know my self-worth now, and I didn't before. And this is something that I have learned massively. And I'm still working on some of these things. And I'm not saying like, oh, I'm this person that's this, that, and the other, because I'm still working on it. But like, I know in my mind, I am enough. I am confident that I am enough. Like, you are enough. You don't need other people to validate you. You need to validate yourself. Like, you are enough, and that's something that I have worked hard on, knowing that I am enough. I am so much more confident than I was before. Yes, there is areas of my life that my confidence still needs improving. But I am working on that. I'm living my purpose. I'm doing something I'm truly passionate about. I've got a healthy body and mind, like my relationship with my body, with the way I look and the way I look after myself. I bloody love exercise. It's a massive form of self-care. Me 4 years ago didn't even want to set foot in the gym. And I prioritise myself. Like, I am my most important thing. Like, that's my priority. And I've also realised, like, I am my greatest investment. Just like you are what your greatest investment too. And investing in yourself is honestly, like, I can categorically say it is the best thing I've ever done. Investing in myself, investing in being coached. I've had 4 coaches this year. 4 coaches this year. Them investments have paid off tenfold because of how far I've come and what I'm pursuing now. And it just shows to you, just to say to you, like, you are your greatest investment. Like, we don't prioritise enough investing in ourselves. It's not deemed as, say, the norm. But to have complete mental freedom and feel free of your thoughts, to be living a life that you truly want to do, to be able to set boundaries with people, to say no to things that you don't want to do, to stop people pleasing, to be actually truly happy, like, inside. I don't, personally, for me, there is no amount of money that you could take that away from what I've got now. But, like, I'm just sharing my journey with you because I've come so far on it, and I've been doing a lot of reflecting, but I'm not sitting here saying I'm completely perfect. There is days I doubt myself. There's days where I have limiting beliefs come up. Am I good enough at what I'm doing? All these different feelings come up, but this is part of the journey. But the journey is the goal, and it's about having that self-awareness, becoming so aware of what it is that's holding you back, to know that actually the story you're telling yourself is not true. Because a lot of the time, like I said, it's not true what we're telling ourselves. It's just a narrative we're making up. But with any development journey, like, the journey is the goal, and like, just to be on the path of bettering yourself is the goal. And the goal is infinite. And I am just so grateful for every single up and down on this path to healing, this path to self-discovery, this path to growth, this path of life, that I'm just so grateful for everything, because there is a lesson in every situation. Like, we're taught that to be proud of yourself might be egotistical or whatever, but I am actually so proud of myself. I'm proud of the journey I'm on. I'm proud of the person that I'm evolving into, and you should be proud of yourself too. Like, you have to be your biggest fan. You have to be your own cheerleader, and it's not like from a big-headed place. It's from a place of actually, like, I am proud of me. Like, you should be proud of yourself. And it's just to talk about I just wanted to share it with you because I'm embarking on the next chapter of my life, like a huge chapter now on this journey. And I just want you to realise your mindset truly does matter. It's the difference between how you feel. It controls absolutely everything, your thoughts, your emotions. And it's just what are the stories that you're telling yourself? What are the narratives that are running through your mind? Because you are enough. You are more than enough. You have all the answers you need within you. You are able to do anything that you truly put your mind to. Because it is the most powerful thing. And when you have freedom of your mind, you control it. You can realise that you can take action and do anything that you truly believe. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. This has been probably my most vulnerable episode yet. I mean, I nearly cried, for goodness sake, and I honestly did not used to be someone that really cried, but I honestly don't share my journey to be oh, look at me, how far I've come, but I share it to show you what is actually possible. What is possible when you actually make that commitment to yourself, when you make that commitment to change, when you prioritise yourself and realise the power of your mind and prioritise investing in that. We only have one brain. It's like a muscle. It needs to be trained. And honestly, if I can do it and has come as far as I have, and come as far as I have, then honestly, so can you. Like I said, you have all the answers within. Please don't compare your journey to anybody else's, because your journey is personal to you. So embrace it all. Accept the good and the bad. Accept it all, because we have to. On the road to healing is acceptance, and it's just about accepting the narrative and using it now. There's a cliche. It's quite a thing, a bit of a cliche quote, but you are the author of your life. You have held the pen. You write the next chapter. Don't let somebody else do that for you. So that's just to say to you, you have the power to change. You are under no obligation to stay the same. You are no obligation to carry on living the life that you are if you know that you want to change. So yeah, I'm going to leave it there, because yeah, I just don't know how to round it up. This is the first time I've actually sat down and recorded something as vulnerable as this. But if you have enjoyed today's episode and you have resonated with any part of my journey, and obviously this is it's hard, like I said, to put into words 4 years worth, and there's so many other pivot there's so many other points along the way, but this is, I feel the most, probably the easiest, most pivotal point, a lot of the pivotal points that have happened. And also there's a lot of other things obviously that are in there, but it's hard. I could be talking till this time next year if I wanted to really thing it. But if you have taken value from this episode, if you have resonated with anybody, any parts of my journey, obviously I love to connect with people. So you can find me on Instagram, or if you know anybody that will benefit from hearing this story, because I share this story to show you that you're not alone in how you're feeling. If you do know anyone that will benefit from it, please do share the episode with them. Share it on your social media. Tag me, because obviously I just want to help empower people to have the mental freedom that I now feel I have and make that. So yeah, as always, I'll leave it with you. Here is to making your mindset truly matter.